Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's broadcast. I am so happy to say hello and to introduce to you my guest this week, a beloved and well-established member of the Marin Symphony musical family for a number of years now, my colleague, the music director of the Marin Symphony Youth Orchestra, Ann Krinitsky. Welcome, Ann.
Thank you so much, Alasdair. I'm thrilled to be here with you.
Absolutely. We've got so much to talk about. I mentioned a well-established member of the Marin Symphony family because that was just to say two things. We've been now music director of the youth orchestra for, I think, 11 years now. This is your 11th season.
That's correct, yes.
But before that, you have some other deep-seated Marin-related ties. Is that not true? Should we just start there with your origin story?
Let's dive in. I grew up in Marin County in Terra Linda and played in the Marin Symphony youth programs when I was growing up. So at that time, there were different ensembles than we have now, but sort of related, just named differently. So we had the workshop for strings, and I played in that for several years, and then moved on to the Marin Symphony Youth Orchestra in what was 8th grade for me, and went on tour with the orchestra and loved it.
And your instrument is violin?
Violin, yes, that's right. I actually started on violin when I was 3 years old. My parents are both musicians, and so they got me started early, and started violin and also played piano from the age of 5.
That's a good balance to have as conductor. And so you studied and Marin played in the youth orchestra. What happened next?
Well, then I went to UC Berkeley, intending to be a math major fully. So I was a math major for a year and a half, but at the same time I was playing in the orchestra with Michael Senturia, who was just a fantastic conductor. And played some principal parts, and principal second was always, pardon me, sort of my favorite place to be, being in the guts of the orchestra. And he saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And when my association with math started to kind of go by the wayside, it just wasn't interesting me the way some other things were. He suggested that I switch to a music major, and so I did, and I've not been sorry since then. It's really felt very much who I am and very organic to me. So
after Berkeley, what was the next your next big stage in your life?
So after Cal, I actually got a job right out of school teaching for the Richmond Unified School District. And at that time, they were flush with money. Milton Marks was the senator and just throwing all kinds of money at the arts for very, very young students. So I was teaching strings to, believe it or not, first graders, first and second graders, and I had a class of 4th graders as well. And I must say they were struggling a bit to kind of treat the instruments kindly and the way that they should have been, but they were lovely kids and very energetic, and it was fun to get them started in music at such a young age so that they developed an appreciation, I think, very early. Anyway, after that, I got my first conducting job, which was with the Berkeley Youth Orchestra, which is a kind of a middle school age group. And I was with them for, I think, 12 years, and went on to work with the Community Women's Orchestra, which was an outreach of the Women's Philharmonic at the time. So it was all women in the orchestra, and we specialized in music by women composers. And then just started moving around, worked at Stanford for a few years as assistant conductor, and then was interim director of orchestras for a year. And then I met my husband, and he was working with the Honolulu Symphony. So we were commuting back and forth, and I did quite a bit of playing and conducting as a guest conductor there as well. So
now we'll come to your husband in just a second, but you slipped this into the middle of your answer very surreptitiously. You just happened to say, "Well, I got my first conducting job, etc., etc." But where did that all come from? Where did the conducting impetus? Was that something that always interested you? Did it come gradually or suddenly?
I think for me, it came gradually. But I think that a lot of the factors that led me down that road were present in my life quite early. So I studied ballet in addition to playing violin and piano. I took ballet for 10 years, actually. Yeah.
Oh, really? Really? Huh.
And so I think that movement training really helped tremendously with conducting. Of course, playing chamber music, playing an inner part, playing a second violin part. made me feel very, very comfortable. And then the sort of global aspects of playing the piano and understanding harmony and all of that. It all sort of led there, but I didn't think that I had really the personality for it. And as I said, Michael Senturia, my conducting teacher at Cal, thought that I had something that I didn't know I had. And I think those are the most wonderful teachers and mentors who recognize something in you that you don't necessarily see in yourself. So yeah, all of that kind of helped and led me in that direction.
So let's pick up the thread when you're heading off to Hawaii with your husband, whom you should probably do a reveal at this point because there's another family connection with the Marin Symphony.
Right. Well, so many people know that Stuart Chafetz, our Pops conductor, is my husband, and we met at a conducting workshop in West Hartford, Connecticut, the Conductors Institute, which was led by Harold Farberman, and we met there over a summer, and he was there practicing for a timpani concerto by William Kraft that he was going to be playing with the Honolulu Symphony in the fall. And he also had developed quite an interest in conducting himself. So he was playing in the orchestra and participating as a conductor, and I was there as a conductor. And we met and just hit it off right away. And but we had this challenge of you know, I guess you call it a bi-coastal relationship. He was in Hawaii and I was on the coast. So, so we had to negotiate that and figure out how we were going to be able to be together. And
maybe it's a transoceanic relationship.
Transoceanic, exactly. That's much better.
I don't know if that's a real word, but anyway.
I like it.
But you are closer to Hawaii in San Francisco, or at least the Bay Area, than any other place on the planet. I've realized since, you know, I have family in Honolulu as well, as you know. But so how many years were you in Hawaii?
So kind of off and on. The year after we got married, I spent the full year there under a full-time playing contract with the symphony. And then I felt it necessary to go back and forth just to kind of maintain my conducting, which was very important to me. So I had jobs here with a couple of community orchestras down the peninsula. So I was coming back, believe it or not, once a week, you know, flying into driving up to my folks' house to crash, and driving down to the South Bay or the peninsula, back up to my parents, and then back to Honolulu the next day. So it was
always going back and forth. There wasn't really any time that you never really left your Bay Area roots?
Not for too long. I think I was never gone more than a month or two at a time. Yeah.
And then 11 years ago, of course, you came back into the Marin Symphony fold and set about this incredible task that which has yielded so many wonderful results of reshaping and reinvigorating our education as part of our education department, the work with the youth orchestra. And you know, just to make it absolutely clear, from my point of view, I think you've just done a tremendous job in expanding the size and the scope and the standards of the orchestra. It's been wonderful to see your work over these now 10 years plus. And so, you know, first of all, huge congratulations on all of that.
Thank you so much. And you've played such a huge role in giving the students something to kind of reach for by inviting them in for side-by-side concerts. And in fact, that was our last activity before everything shut down in March. So,
that was the last concert I conducted.
That was the last concert, our last experience with the students in person. So, but we love having the students interact with the symphony members as much as possible. And I think we're going to be able to do that quite a bit this year. So I'm really happy about that. But thank you. It's been certainly a labor of love. The students are wonderful. We maintain our friendships, you know, long beyond their tenure in the orchestra. They often ask me to write recommendations for them for college, and I'm thrilled to do so. And we've gone on tour.
Yes, indeed. Tell us about that.
I'm so glad we went when we went, right? We went.
Timing is everything, isn't it? Aren't you glad? Oh my God.
Right. So it was June 2019, and we went to Eastern Europe, you know, not knowing that we probably wouldn't be able to go again for quite some time. Timing was just perfect. Yes, so Budapest, Prague, and Vienna, and it was just a fabulous tour. We got to play in each place in wonderful venues, and led by our, you know, our fearless Jenny Douglas, who has just spearheaded so many wonderful projects, including our recording sessions at Skywalker, you know, our side-by-side concerts, our tour especially, and we've just had so many wonderful, really memorable, you know, life-changing experiences that we've been able to offer the students, and I'm so grateful to be part of it.
No, I suppose it's been wonderful to observe it from the mostly as I come to the concerts, but also as you know, I like to do a drop-in visit a couple of times a year to work with the students, and that's always a pleasure. I suppose that brings me to my next question and that is, what now? What are the plans for the youth orchestra programs in the current climate?
Right. So the summer has been one of kind of researching and brainstorming and trying to come up with opportunities for our students to learn about maybe different aspects of music than they ordinarily do. We always come together every week for rehearsals, and we obviously can't do that in person. So I've been researching and just trying to come up with ways to get them involved in other aspects that they usually don't consider. For example, doing a little bit of research about the composers, so gaining some historical knowledge and some background. Learning how to read the score, which many students don't know how to do.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, offering a scavenger hunt, so they have to pick out different elements of the score and learn a little bit about even you know, score reading, clef reading, and transpositions and things like that. So we'll see how it goes.
I'd be interested to check in with you after a few months of that, just to see what the students' response is, and perhaps, I'm just guessing here, it might involve an even greater degree of respect for you as conductor, to realize that's what you have to do on a daily basis. Not so easy, right?
I think we often wish as conductors that everyone in the orchestra would have to stand up and do that at least once in their lives, to feel what it feels like. You know, we're not just flapping our wings, and you know, there is more to it than that. But it's interesting. We surveyed the students about what their interest would be for this kind of online program, and they said that they wanted to learn about theory. So I don't know if there's just a dearth of those kind of opportunities in their regular curriculum, or if they're you know, just ready, hot to trot on theory. But we're going to try to bring them as many different kinds of opportunities, and again, things that support their musical development and understanding in more of a global sense, I think, of what it means to be a musician, and particularly to play in an ensemble, and a large ensemble like an orchestra. So we're looking forward to having Marin Symphony members come and work with them, and work, I think, on a pretty regular basis, so that they're getting regular coaching and regular feedback from professionals. We're going to bring in alumni and guests from hopefully all different types of careers related to music. Composers, we have our Liam Wallace coming back to do a session, who composed a piece for us. He's a percussionist who graduated a couple of years ago and is now at UCLA, or not now, but you know, would be if he weren't at home. And just to talk about kind of what his experience is, just so the students can see what the possibilities are and what the next steps might be. Music, of course, a career in music doesn't necessarily mean only playing, right?
No, there are so many paths that one can follow, and maybe now more than ever, a kind of a blended approach. It's not just one silo or another. There are so many ways of creating a life in music, and it's wonderful that you're giving people that sense of possibility early on in the game. I think that's really valuable. So when we get to the other side of this, and you can actually get everybody on stage at some point in the future, which we just simply don't know yet, but do you have what are your next goals for the program, for the orchestras?
Well, I'm hoping that we're going to be just as robust coming out of this as we have been going in. And as you mentioned, the program has really grown in size, and I hope that we'll be able to kind of continue those offerings. We've always talked about trying to offer chamber music. I think that would be a wonderful goal. It takes a lot of resources. We have to have, you know, enough funds to hire staff to do that regularly, and so that's an aspect of the program that we haven't yet implemented that I'd really like to see get started. and just continued performances. We've participated sometimes in the Bay Area Youth Orchestra Festival, which has been great. And, and now the students play in Davies Hall with 5 other orchestras, and then there's a kind of an honors orchestra that features members of each ensemble, and just to keep opening their eyes, I think, in any way that we can, to know what's possible, to have something to reach for, to step outside of their comfort zone maybe a bit, and perform in different places.
And maybe with all of those things you just mentioned, then another tour would seem to fit the bill with all of these things. I know it's a hell of a thing to put on, and requires, talk about taking a village, but I know also from the experience of touring with youth orchestras what an incredible life-changing experience that is, and these are memories that they'll carry with them for the rest of their lives.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you so much for not just your time today, but for everything that you brought to the program. It's been wonderful to see the institution flourish under your leadership now for more than a decade. You've made a difference in so many young people's lives, and I just want to thank you personally for all your wonderful and magnificent work that you're doing, that you've done over the last 10 years, and that you're taking to the next level now. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Alasdair, and thank you for all of your support and for the entire organization's support. Thank you.
My pleasure. Looking forward to seeing you in person soon.
Likewise.
Take care.
You too.